What's up, team? My name is Josh Hancott. In today's video, I'm going to talk about picking attempts in a powerlifting competition. Some of you might have done meets in the past and you found that your expectations were let down. You put in 2 to 3 to 4, 5, 6 months of hard work, peaked really well for the event, only to come in and have your expectations totally let down because of how you picked your attempts in the competition. I've been there in the past, trust me. So in this video, I'm going to give you a little rule of thumb of how I, in particular, like to set up my attempt selection. Now, before I show you the general rule of thumb that I do for my attempt selection, I need you guys to understand that this is percentage based. It can change on the day of. You guys might have seen my video where I talk about auto-regulating and percentage-based programming. Basically, I talk about the pros and cons. I'll actually link the video below. But basically, I feel that auto-regulation really helps with the athlete's intuition. This actually also comes with experience. As the more meets that you have under your belt, you're going to understand how big of a jump you can take or how light you need to open or anything like that in terms of picking your attempts. It obviously will start becoming more naturally the more you do it. You know, practice makes perfect, as they say. This is just what works for me. You guys can totally try it out and see if that works for you, or just do out the numbers and see if it makes sense for you. If you can see logically, oh yeah, that would make sense, I'm gonna try it out, and let me know. Purely the way I want you guys to look at this video is, if you're coming into a meet, you don't really care about going head to head with anyone, you're not trying to beat, quote, anyone in particular, nothing like that. You're just trying to maximize your potential for achieving the highest total that you possibly can, which is what it's about at the end of the day. Okay, now listen up. This is the very most important thing for this whole video that I'm talking about. Because if you mess this part up, the whole thing is going to be screwed, totally shagged up. She's going to be shagged. Here's the most imperative thing you need to have down straight, and that's this. You have to pick realistic third attempts, okay? Now, if you're a beginner athlete or very new, it's really hard to pick a realistic attempt. I remember I would be like, okay, I just squat 405. 2 months later, I'm going to squat 500. Like 500, that's what I'm getting. So I would, you know, if you're a beginner lifter, really try and be realistic. And I know that's difficult to do. But if you're an intermediate and experienced athlete, then you'll know that, or you should know that the key thing is, if you're basing attempt selection in a meet, is you have to be totally, leave the ego out and be totally realistic. Not only be realistic on how your training went this past block, but how you actually feel game day. Because literally in 1 week, when you take that taper week, anything can happen in that taper week. You could have a successful peak, but then if your weight cut goes very bad, then you could feel weak on game day, and you have to adjust accordingly. So when you start warming up that day, time your warm-ups correctly if possible, but also look at 2 things: how training went, how you feel that day, and how you think you're going to perform. And then pick realistic third attempts. Realistic third attempt, and then what I like to do is, from that, get the percentage, which is about 91% is what I go with. 91, in that range, and I just simply go 91% multiplied by my goal of my third, and then that's what I'll open with. Second attempt, I like to go 96%, and then third obviously is 100%, or your third attempt that you planned out to hit. So just say, let's just pretend your goal is to squat 440 pounds, also known as 200 kgs. That's your goal. You're like, I really want to hit a 200 kilo squat. That's my goal. You come here, you open with 0.91 multiplied by 200 kilos, and you'd open with 182.5. 182.5 which is 402 pounds. Now that to me seems very realistic. If you want to squat 440, you could certainly open with 402. And again, this will obviously depend on the athlete. If they feel like they need to open lighter and they can do bigger jumps, that's fine. This is just purely my opinion. Second attempt, I'd take out my calculator and I would go 0.96 multiplied by 200 kgs is 192. 192.5, also known as 424 pounds in the powerlifting meet. So if you were to set it up, you go 182 and a half, 402 pounds, 424, and 440. Bench press is the only lift that I don't really work in terms of percentage. So I don't take the percentages. Now again, this is just me personally. You guys might know a percentage formula that you guys like to do in the event. But me personally, I like to just pick attempts by tracking backwards in terms of kilos. I'll set my goal down here. I'm gonna go through the door. I'll just set my goal and I'll track back. My second attempt is gonna be 5 kilos, or that's about 11 pounds less than what I want. So from my second and my third attempt, I'm jumping about 10 pounds. Now the reason I like to do that is because off of your second attempt, you can decide pretty easily if you got another 10 pounds or if you only have 5, and then you can make the jump to build the best total possible. So just say your goal is, again, your goal is to bench press 300 pounds. So we'll come right here, we'll write down 300. Now, there's no 300 in a meet. I believe it's 303, which is 137.5 kilos. So let's just look at the kilos. Or in brackets, this is 303 in pounds. Now I got you all confused, I'm going backwards. But so this is your goal, to hit this so that you can officially get your 300 in a meet. You would come back 5 kilos. So your second attempt will be 132.5 kgs, 292 pounds. And then you would come back 7.5 kilos, opening up with 125 kgs, which is 275 pounds. So if you think about it, if someone's goal is to bench 300, they should definitely be able to pause 275 pretty safely as an opener, jump to 290, and then go 303. Hopefully that made sense for bench press. Now let's move on to the big daddy, the deadlift. The meet doesn't start until the weight hits the floor. Deadlifts, I like to come back and go back to the old good and trusty percentage-based formula. Now I know I got you guys all messed up. I go with percentages on some things, and then I just go with normal weights on the other things, and percentages on the deadlifts. What's wrong with me? I don't know. This is just what I like to do. You have to find what works for you. If you don't like this video, then yeah, you just don't like it. Let's go with 90% on your opener. You'll notice that 90% is less than opening in the squat with 91. The reason behind that I like to open with 90 is because it is at the end of the meet, you're exhausted, it's been a long day, you're running low on fumes. In terms of percentages for deadlifts, I like to open 90%. Second attempt, I like to go about 96%, sometimes even 95%. And then third, obviously 100%, or your goal to hit for that day. Just say your deadlift is, your goal is to hit a 600-pound deadlift. Wink, wink. That's 272.5 kgs. Okay? So let's just track backwards. 90% of 600 is 540 pounds, or 245 kgs.
You smoked that one, fellas.
0.96 times 272.5. 261. So there's no such thing as 261. So what do? You round down, you go 260 kgs, which is 500, love my writing, 573 pounds.
Beautiful form, beautiful.
540, 573, 600. Wow, this looks like a very cool blue on the camera. That was my attempts at CPU Nationals.
Don't stop pulling, come on!
Josh, come on. Come on, Josh.
Hopefully you guys found this video useful and you can apply it to your own competitions coming up in the future. And always remember,